Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Last hour of the week here. Hope the work week's in the rearview mirror. If it's not, we'll get you to the finish line here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. The Athletics got a story out. The transfer portal class is under the most pressure in college football. We'll see if and where LSU's class ranks on that list coming up in 15 minutes. But LSU and Omaha are going to open a 3-game set coming up in 2 hours, a 4 o'clock first pitch from the box. It's just humorous that LSU's playing Omaha just because that's where you'd like to finish the season. I'm told that this might be a thank you for LSU being able to use Omaha's field to practice 2 years ago. I cannot confirm that, but it may be. Either way, it's LSU and Omaha, not LSU in Omaha this afternoon. They'll play 2 games tomorrow for Omaha heads north. Omaha actually opened last weekend at Tulane. They played at Nichols on Tuesday, and then they finished their tour of Louisiana here with LSU this weekend. This is not a good Omaha team. We'll start with that, okay? They played Tulane last weekend, as I mentioned. They got swept. They gave up double-digit runs in every single game, and the pitching just got battered all over the yard. This Maverick staff gave up 32 runs on 32 hits. They gave up 20 walks in 3 games, and they hit 4 batters. And all that was only in 24 innings because Tulane never had to hit in the bottom of the 9th inning. So it was a team that didn't get any outs last weekend against Tulane. They were better on a cold Tuesday night in Thibodaux. They only gave up 2 runs to the Colonels. But still, they come into today's game with an ERA of 9.28 as a team and a batting average against of 305, and that's against Tulane and Nichols. So LSU offensively should be raring and ready to go again. I am putting less stock into LSU's offensive numbers than to some of the things I'm seeing from the pitching staff. Because as we talked about on Monday, throwing strikes is throwing strikes. Sure, you can get more swing and miss from against a bad team, but throwing strikes generally is throwing strikes. Velocity is velocity. Your pitchers throw 96 against Purdue-Fort Wayne. They throw 96 against Tennessee. It is what it is. So there's more concrete stuff for me to take from the pitching staff than there is from the offense, which is bashing around 88-mile-an-hour fastballs. And you'll probably see more of that from the LSU offense this weekend because Omaha's pitching is bad. So not a lot of keys to the weekend for LSU's offense. Just keep swinging it good. More of what I'm looking for this weekend is a continuation on the staff of what we saw through the first 4 games. I'll start with the starting guys. The numbers were awesome. The stuff was awesome. Everything was good last week. One thing I did notice, and more so with Cade Anderson on Friday and then Chase Shores on Sunday, the velocity for both of those guys dipped in their 5th inning of work. Both completed 5 innings, but in that 5th inning, you saw those 98s and 96s from Shores dip to 93. You saw Anderson's 95s dip to 91. And that's completely natural in a season opening series. Completely natural. And it's a little chilly out there, so the high-end velocities may not get where they did today and tomorrow last week, but I'd like to see wherever they start holding it around 70 pitches. So if Anderson is not really 95 today, he's more 92, 93, what is he on pitch 70? And I'd like to see him throw close to 85 pitches. He threw 83 last week. I'd like to see 85 this week, and I'd like to see him hold that velocity. You're working towards league play. You're building up. Shores did not throw as many pitches. He only threw, let's see, I had that written down. He threw 67 last week. I'd like to see that closer to 80 this week. And I'd like to see the velocity. If he gets it up to 97, 98 like he did last week, great. If he does it and he's closer to 95 this week, then hold it at 95 as long as you can. I want to see those guys building up arm strength to hold their velocity. LSU may have the luxury when we get into March, April, May, June to go to their bullpen a little bit more quickly than usual. It's possible that LSU's got more bullpen arms they can trust than years past. It looks that way, but again, we can't tell playing Purdue Fort Wayne or Nebraska Omaha. Like, you can't quite tell. But if they do have the depth that we think they might, you won't need your starters to go 104 pitches. But usually, your best guys are in your weekend rotation, and you want your best guys out there. We'll see if that's the case, but just in case, I'd like to see LSU extend Shores, extend Ianson, extend Anderson, and have those guys hold their velocity a little bit better than last week. That's big for me. We still have not seen LSU in a high leverage situation, and we may not this weekend. If the Omaha pitching is as bad as I think it is, and LSU scores 9, 10, 12, 16 runs every game, and LSU starting pitching is great like it was last week, and they don't allow any runs through 5 innings, well, you're not going to have any close games. But eventually in the non-conference, LSU is going to play a close game or two. I promise you that will happen. I don't know when, and I won't predict it, but it's going to happen eventually. I'd like to see who Jay Johnson goes to at that point. Does he go to Gavin Guidry, who hasn't pitched yet? Does he go to Connor Benj, who is a veteran? Does he go to Chandler Dorsey, who was a closer last year for South Florida? Does he go to one of those guys who's older, Connor Ware even? Or, based on what we saw last weekend from the freshman foursome, that's William Schmidt, Kaysen Evans, Maverick Rizzi, Cooper Williams, those guys, have they earned a shot at pitching a high leverage spot? Keep in mind, those freshman pitchers last week, here's the total line score from 4 different freshman arms. 6 2/3 innings, no runs, 1 hit, 13 strikeouts, no walks. Again, 6 2/3 innings. So that's basically like a start. One start. If you started a game and you gave up no runs on 1 hit and 13 strikeouts with no walks, that's dominant stuff. And that's what LSU's freshmen did last week. Again, against a bad team, we understand the caveat. Back to the point. I think that these guys have a real shot at pitching in high leverage spots. And Jay Johnson has been adamant about that in his post-game press conferences and his media availabilities. Like, these dudes are good and they're ready to go. He was able last weekend to get them all a bit of a ramp up, as he called it, meaning you're pitching in a low leverage spot. You're pitching in a spot that allows for failure, not going to dictate the win or the loss. You've got a 9-run lead. You got a 7-run lead. You got a 12-run lead. You're in the 9th inning. He let those guys do that. Eventually, there's going to be a tight spot. Does he trust the youngsters to go in there, or are you going to get a more veteran arm? I tend to lean towards the more veteran arm. I usually bet with the chalk on stuff like that. But I'll be watching. I'll be curious to see how it all goes. You got thrown out on the bases a lot over the weekend. I don't think it was a big deal, but let's keep an eye on that this weekend. And then we'll keep an eye on the batting order as well and kind of how it shakes out. You're getting into a rhythm at the top with Stanfield and Curiel and Jones, and then against left-handers, Dickinson's, against a right-hander, maybe Jake Brown. And then you'll see a shuffle at catcher. You'll see the shuffle in right field and DH. And you're off and running. It should be another weekend that looks like last weekend. I mean, LSU to this point has got a 500 on-base percentage through 4 games. They're getting on base half the time. They're scoring 11.3 11.3 runs per game, and you're facing a bad pitching staff. So I don't anticipate LSU having a ton of problems. Offensively for Omaha, you've got a couple of guys who are returning, who are good players. Henry Zupe and Jackson Trout are off to a good start and were starters for them last year. But frankly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Omaha. Spend a lot of time thinking about getting to Omaha. Not going to spend a lot of time on the Omaha Mavericks. I think LSU goes out this weekend, takes care of business. If you got off at 2 o'clock or you took off at 2 o'clock to go out to the box and watch and you missed this because you've been working on this Friday, Sunday's game has been rescheduled for this weekend. So LSU will play today at 4 o'clock. They will play tomorrow at noon. They will play tomorrow night at 5, and that'll be it for LSU in Omaha. Nothing scheduled on Sunday because inclement weather is expected. Nichols will come to the box on Monday evening for that game, and then LSU will travel on Tuesday to Dallas. They'll play in Arlington on Wednesday against Dallas Baptist. Then they'll go to Frisco for Friday, Saturday, Sunday in that Frisco Classic. So the schedule's a little bit wonky, but today it starts at 4 o'clock with LSU and Omaha from the box. Kate Anderson will get the baseball for LSU. I'll be out there, and I'll have a post-game story up this evening on LouisianaSports.net. That's your look at LSU baseball for the weekend. Come back and talk some football. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. You never even have to set foot on the lot to buy a Genesis at Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you're interested, start your process at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. You see something you like, they got great photographs, details of all the bells and whistles. And if you'd like to test drive it, you don't have to go to the store if you don't want to. One of the brand ambassadors will come to you. They'll come to the office. They'll come to the house. They'll get you behind the wheel, show you all the features of their luxury vehicles. And if you decide, hey, this is what's for me, they can do e-contracts. They can do digital delivery. And you never set foot on the lot. I know that turns a lot of folks off. Just avoid it. I would suggest you go to the lot because it's phenomenal facility, great team, great coffee maker, lots of snacks, great ambiance. And you can do it there, or you can do it from the comfort of your own home. Genesis of Baton Rouge, happy to help you with all of that. Check them out online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
So the Athletics got a piece up. Antonio Morales wrote it, and it's titled, "Which college football transfer portal classes have the most on the line in 2025?" Now, that's subjective. Like, on the line, you could take that a lot of different ways. Are you trying to get to the playoff? Are you trying to win the national championship? You're trying to win your conference. You're trying to make sure your coach doesn't get fired. You're trying to take the next step as a program. There are a lot of different ways you could put that. So it's just a content thing at this time in the calendar year for college football. And I agree with like a lot of the team names on their face based on where the program is and where many expect it to be. Like the first name on this list is Oklahoma. Okay, gotcha. Like, they came into the SEC, they went 2-6 in the league. That's a disaster. I remember distinctly having an Oklahoma writer on this show the day Oklahoma officially joined the league. I think it was July 1st. And he said something to the effect that Oklahoma had won the conference half the time over the last 18 years or something. But like, think about that. Like, we've seen Saban, Urban Meyer, Spurrier, like no one wins the league half the time. And Oklahoma was doing that when it was Texas Tech and TCU and Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Tech. Like, we got it. You're in for a rude awakening from that perspective, but going 2-6 is probably not something they forecast. So I get it. Like, Brent Venables is very much on the hot seat. They got to get it figured out. I agree with Oklahoma being there. I absolutely agree with Auburn being there as well. In the first 2 years, Hugh Freeze is 11-14. Like 11-14 in a transfer portal era where you're expected to get things fixed immediately is not nearly good enough. So yeah, I get that one as well. Penn State got its quarterback back, was in the national semifinal. Okay, I got you. There's pressure there to get it done because you've got some pieces back. I'm with you there. Then you drop down to Arizona. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about Arizona's football team. I don't. But how much is really on the line at Arizona? I don't know, and I'm not going to read about it. Same thing goes for Virginia Tech. Brent Pry is 16-21 in 3 seasons at Virginia Tech. They went 6-7 last year. Like, I don't know that there's a lot on the line in Blacksburg. So I don't know that I agree with that a ton. Now, Florida State, yes, they're on this list as well. And I would suggest you've got a lot of work to do there because the bottom absolutely fell out after an undefeated season where they unfortunately get left out of the playoff because Jordan Travis got hurt. You try to restock the cells with transfers as you lose Verse and Fisk and Coleman and Travis and that whole group at Florida State. Yeah, they got a lot on their plate to get fixed this year after being one of the worst teams in the Power 5 last year, if not the worst team, quite frankly. So, yeah, that one makes a ton of sense as well. And then you go to Arkansas. Well, that's a different thing than Auburn and Oklahoma altogether because nobody in Fayetteville is suggesting you better compete for the SEC championship. You better make the playoff. That's the anticipation at Oklahoma and Auburn, right or wrong. And Arkansas doesn't have that, but the longer they keep Sam Pittman, the more you're just delaying the inevitable because he's never going to accomplish anything of substance there. Nice guy, drinks some cold beers, loves it on the lake, had a nice start at Arkansas. Not going to have anything moving forward. So I don't know that I would necessarily put them as a lot on the line other than Sam Pittman losing his job, which, quite frankly, at his age, with his net worth, probably not the biggest thing in the world either. He wouldn't say that. I don't mean to speak for him, but I'm just kind of speaking on the outside there. Then they go to Cincinnati, pass on that. Texas Tech, they've got a lot of high dollar transfers. We know that, but I don't think Texas Tech's got a ton on the line either. Maybe they could win the Big 12. I don't respect the Big 12, so I don't really care. But LSU's not on this list. That probably surprises you, and it certainly surprises me because when LSU hired Brian Kelly, that was a huge splash move. Texas A&M cried about the microscope they were under for years after they took Jimbo Fisher for Florida State. And I believe that same microscope has been shifted onto LSU now because of it's certainly on USC as well. When you hire Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma or Brian Kelly from Notre Dame, you're inviting a lot of eyeballs and a lot of expectation. And we all know that through 3 years, Brian Kelly has not met the expectation of those on the outside, whether that's the college football media, the national perspective, whether that's the people here in the fan base, or that's him. He did not sign up to go to the ReliaQuest Bowl and the Texas Bowl. That's not why he's here. So there's more to be done under a microscope in Baton Rouge. And I think the transfer portal class is vital to that. And I don't think you could argue otherwise. I mean, it's hard to speak in absolutes about a starting lineup for a football team in February when they're not taking the field again until, I think in this case, it's actually August. But in that first game, Labor Day weekend. But would you be stunned if Braylon Moore's not in the starting lineup at center? I would. Would you be stunned if Nick Anderson is not in the lineup at wide receiver? I would. Would you be stunned if Berrien Brown is not a big piece to this passing attack? I would. Would you be stunned if Bauer Sharp is not the primary blocking tight end? I would. I'd be stunned if Tamarcus Cooley didn't play in the secondary. I'd be stunned if Jack Pyburn didn't play a ton. I'd be stunned if Patrick Payton didn't immediately play on the first third down next year. I'd be stunned if Mansour Delane wasn't a starter in the secondary. I'm not even listing them all. I don't have Jamari Butler in this list. I don't have them all in here. I don't have Sydir Mitchell in this list. You've got wide receiver from Florida State, tackle from Northwestern. You've got guys that you brought in this transfer portal class that I haven't mentioned. But I did mention 8 guys that I would be stunned if they are not in the first drive against Clemson. Not to mention the fact that you've brought in a backup quarterback who may have to play at some point, who started in the SEC. So I realize this is not the end-all, be-all, and it's a content filler as a piece, but to have a piece about the transfer portal that has the biggest load to bear and the most on the line, quote unquote, and to not include LSU, I think is probably incomplete. I'm not saying you got to take Arizona off the list and put LSU on there, but as far as expectations go, LSU's going to have monster expectations as a team. When we get to the SEC Media Days coming up in July, LSU will be picked in the top 4 of the league. And generally speaking, the top 4 are going to be right in the thick of a playoff mix, and because of that, are considered potential national championship threats. That'll be the discussion we have in July. And 8 or 9 or 10 guys on that team with expectations of doing things that are great. The coach has gone out and said, see you in the national championship. Didn't say this year, but said in general. And you've got that many guys in this transfer portal class that are tasked with making that happen. That's probably needs to be on the list. I'm sure the guys at Virginia Tech have got to work really hard. I'm sure Texas Tech is really going to get after it in Lubbock in August and hope to have a great season. But this is one of the biggest brands in college football and collegiate athletics. This is one of the most famous coaches, for good or for bad, in the NCAA. And this is a transfer portal class that's going to be given a lot of responsibility on a team that's got to shoulder all of those burdens for all those people. It's a big, big deal. And I'm not telling you, the LSU fan, who's listening to this or watching this on YouTube or whatever the case may be, like, you already know that. I'm just saying, without diving into the depth chart there at Virginia Tech, I'd be surprised if there were this many high-end transfers, and I'd be surprised if the stakes at Virginia Tech in October of 2025 are as high as the stakes for LSU. So I don't know how you could qualify even more for this discussion. Doesn't matter. I'm not suggesting The Athletic hates LSU or this writer made a gross oversight. I just saw the headline of the article and very much expected LSU to be one of the first teams listed. And I scroll by and I go, Oklahoma, Auburn, Penn State, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Arkansas, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. That's 8 teams I just rattled off, and LSU didn't make the list. Surprised me. I don't know if it would have surprised you. Some of those have really good reasons for them. Hugh Freeze better get it in gear. That's a lot to deal with. But LSU's transfer portal class better be really good, or our conversations in August are not going to sound like our conversations in December. It's the way that I see it. If you're looking for our LSU football content, you can always find it at Hunt on LSU. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it wherever you find your podcasts. Hunt on LSU, all football, all the time. So if you're not a baseball guy or gal, if you don't love LSU basketball and are ready to turn the page on that, and you want your football all year round, Hunt on LSU has got you covered. We also got you covered on LouisianaSports.net. All right, let's take a timeout. 30 minutes to go, a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
I got 30 more minutes to go here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Clean, crispy fried catfish, jumbo Gulf shrimp. Those crispy shoestring fries as well. They got your hush puppies, your coleslaw, crawfish etouffee. Awesome baked potatoes over there at Corks. You can get the baked potato and then cover it with crawfish etouffee and the golden brown shrimp. It's real, real good stuff. Swing on by the drive-thru right there, Government Foster and Jefferson, or you can go into that renovated dining room and eat as well. And I tell you this, each and every week, if you've got a tailgate, you got a birthday party, if you want to feed the office lunch on a Friday or whatever the case may be, if you're feeding a lot of people, Corks can help you with all that. Mardi Gras parades very much included. You want to have some grub. For a lot of folks, Corks can always help you out with that. Big trays. They got all the pricing at corksfishandshrimp.com. Just give them a little bit of notice and they can have it all ready for you there at Corks. This is a big picture segment here. I don't know that there's a defined point that I'm making here, but I'm just interested in the big picture of college football as we continue to evolve. Nebraska has nixed a home and home with Tennessee. The reason that is being given from Nebraska, who is responsible, this is not mutual, is that they're about to do a big renovation of Memorial Stadium, and they want to have all of their home games in 2027 to help offset the cost. They were going to go, Tennessee was going to play in Nebraska in 26, and then Nebraska would go to Tennessee in 27, which would take away a home game. It's a non-conference game. You wouldn't be playing at home. They want a home game. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Maybe it's that they're trying to dodge Tennessee to try to make the playoff. Maybe they're trying to recoup funds for a stadium renovation. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. But it makes me think about these big-time matchups. And clearly LSU's going to Clemson this year. And clearly LSU has dipped his toe in that water and has played USC and has played Wisconsin and has played Florida State twice. It's got Clemson coming up twice. Has played UCLA. And LSU has done this annually. And you're required as an SEC team to play a big-time non-conference game, but you could just as easily pick up the phone and call Wake Forest or Northwestern as you can Southern Cal or Florida State. And we all thought that when the playoff expanded to 12 teams and we thought 10-2 was good enough to get into an SEC team, it stood to reason that we would all look up and go, okay, you're not just absolutely crippled for a loss anymore. More schools are going to schedule these big games. And then we had all that discussion in December because Indiana got in playing nobody that, well, strength of schedule really doesn't matter. It's just how many games you lose. And statistically speaking, you're less likely to lose if you schedule North Texas instead of Texas. So you had, and it wasn't like a behind closed doors thing. This is actual athletic directors on the record talking to reporters saying, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to test ourselves. And y'all know my standing on all of this. Just tell me what the rules are, and then I'll figure out the best way for LSU to compete for championships. And y'all know my stance on this as well. I would rather play Elon than Clemson on Labor Day. And I feel like this is complete gas ballpark. In the Bayou Ford chat, if you want to tell me I'm an idiot, I am open to that on this Friday. Always there. But I feel like 60% probably are with me at this point. Like, why would you give yourself, because of what LSU has done to itself the last 5 years in losing the opener, I think most people have changed their tune and gone, yeah, probably don't need to do that anymore. Not a great idea. Be just fine if we do what Georgia did 2 years ago. It was on accident because the Oklahoma game got canceled. They didn't play anybody. Be better if we just took the win. Now, there are still, I think, 40% of y'all who are completely within your rights and your opinion to say, no, give me Clemson, give me Florida State, just get better and win the game, which is clearly the way LSU's scheduling department thinks. Clearly. And nobody's right or wrong. It's just your feeling. When it comes to LSU, give me the win. I think your conference record is going to stand up and it's going to be good enough to make the tournament if you are 6-2 in the league. Just like Tennessee did last year. Who Tennessee beat? NC State? I'll play them. Fine. There are plenty of teams I'll play. I'll play TCU. I'll play Kansas. I'll play Texas Tech. I'll play Duke. Bring on Boston College. I'll take Minnesota. Give me all those teams. I'm fine. If you made me in charge, I'm not scheduling Ohio State. I'm not scheduling Southern Cal. I'm not scheduling Georgia. I'm not scheduling Michigan. That's me. And you can say you're a beta and you're scared and that's no way to run anything. And that's fine. But I'm one of those that would rather open the door to get in the next room than try to run through the wall. And I feel like a lot of athletic directors are going to start to think that way based on these decisions. Now, the one thing that I will say about all this is that we had a bit of an anomaly this year in that the teams that were what I would consider good enough to make the playoff, and I'm specifically speaking about Ole Miss and Alabama in this instance, lost freakish games. I believe Alabama beats Vanderbilt in Nashville 9 out of 10. They lost. I believe Ole Miss beats Kentucky in Oxford 9 out of 10, and they lost. And if either one of those two results is reversed, we have a different discussion. And this is what I said in December when it happened. I think that Ole Miss is better than Indiana. I think that Alabama is better than Indiana. I can't back it up. Nothing. I can't do that. But I believe it. But I cannot sympathize with them because you lost games to teams you cannot lose to and be taken seriously when you get to the debate table. And Indiana didn't lose any of those games. They didn't beat anybody. And Ole Miss beat Georgia. Bama beat Georgia, which is something Indiana can't say. But you can't lose to Vandy. Kentucky won one league game last year, and it was in Oxford. Sorry, you got no leg to stand on. And I don't think that's going to happen every year. I don't think the teams that we consider playoff good are going to consistently throw up on themselves against the dregs of the league. I don't believe annually that Ohio State is going to lose to Minnesota. I don't think that Alabama is going to make a habit of losing to Vandy. I don't think the good Clemson or Florida State teams are going to consistently drop one to Boston College every year. I think we got a bit of an anomaly. And that's the thing. We're kind of flying in this new era where we don't really know what the discussion is going to look like at the end.
Well, and I was going to say that you think last year was an anomaly, but do you not think that this could become a trend of just the way that college football is going to evolve with this new era of NIL and transfer portal?
I don't think consistently that Ole Miss is going to lose to Kentucky and Alabama is going to lose to Vanderbilt. And okay. I'm using them not as their actual program. The teams that teams that we think in August have NFL dudes and should make the playoff. I think more often those teams are going to do what Tennessee did and lose the game to Georgia. Okay, we stubbed our toe in Norman. Well, they were fine. We won the rest of them. And Ole Miss, okay, they lost in Tiger Stadium. They lost. What was their other loss? I'm trying to run through.
Ole Miss.
Yeah, they lost to LSU. And
it was a bad one. It was Florida, yeah.
It was pretty good at the end there, but still, yeah, it's not good. So look, and that's you don't have a leg to stand on when you do that. So I'm curious to see how athletic directors do this, and that was kind of the genesis of this whole segment. Is like, okay, are you gonna just decide we're not stepping out, or are you gonna decide to keep scheduling or continue to schedule these big time games? I don't think you're going to see a massive shift, but if you did, it wouldn't blow me away. I don't think LSU's stepping back because I know who's in charge over there. And his outlook is very, very clear. We're going to keep scheduling big-time games on national TV with huge paydays, and our football program's job is to win them. And there are probably a lot of people that agree with that. I'll continue to call Wake Forest and Minnesota, and I'm not going to necessarily be quick to take a trip to Clemson. But that's just me. We'll see. I think I'm now in the majority. I can promise you 5 years ago I was in the very much minority. I believe now I'm in the majority because LSU's lost 5 of these in a row. So, just my thoughts. We're about to wrap things up. One more segment to go. Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Nothing more important than your home security, your house, your family. For the Palmers, we trust Mitchell Fisher and Audio Video Security Solutions with all of that. It was such an easy process. We called Mitchell, said, hey, can you meet us out here in the afternoon? The next day, he was at our house. So this is what we want to do. Here's our budget. We want cameras. We want burglar alarms. He said, okay. So we scouted out where to put the cameras. 2 days later, Mitchell came out. He had all the equipment. We didn't buy any of it. We didn't hand any of it. He had it all. Part of the deal. He set up cameras, front door, back door, set up the burglar alarm as well, downloaded the app on our phone, showed us how to use it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can look at my front door and my back door with a crystal clear picture on my phone. I can pause, I can zoom in, I can rewind, all that without paying any cloud storage fees. I can arm my alarm remotely. I can disarm it remotely. It's been very, very convenient, and the customer service has been fantastic. If you haven't given a lot of thought to cameras or a burglar alarm at your home, but you'd like to look into that, check them out online at avssla.com. The website is right there. The phone number is right at the top right. You can contact Mitchell Fisher directly, and he'll be your point person to take care of your job. It's audio video security solutions. Find them online at avssla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
.104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win free car washes from Benny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our LouisianaSports.net daily newsletter. To sign up, visit 1045ESPN.com, and 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge is your home for the New Orleans Pelicans. Tune in as the Pels hit the road to face the Mavericks tonight at 7:30, and then return home to host the Spurs on Sunday at 6 and Tuesday at 7. Pelicans coverage is brought to you locally by Industry Makes.
Pels playing the Mavericks. Tigers also playing the Mavericks. The Omaha Mavericks and LSU just over an hour from right now. We got the lineup in. I'll get that to you briefly here. It's Chris Stanfield to lead off in center field, as expected. Derek Curiel going to play left field and hit second, as expected. Jared Jones, the first baseman, in the 3 spot, as expected. Ashton Larson is going to hit cleanup behind Jared Jones. I like that spot for Ashton, who swung a hot bat early in the season. Daniel Dickinson will hit 5th. He is the second baseman. Stephen Milam will hit 6th at shortstop. Michael Braswell, the third baseman, will hit 7th. Jake Brown's in right field. He will hit 8th. And then Luis Hernandez will catch and hit 9th. This is the second consecutive week that Luis Hernandez has caught Cade Anderson. That's something I'm also going to be looking at this week. What catchers catch what pitchers, and do we see that back-to-back weeks? It's sometimes difficult to track, but I've got box scores. We can make it work. I do know that Luis Hernandez started the game last Friday. He's starting today for Cade Anderson. So the only real change here is that Ashton Larson is in the lineup in the 4 spot as a designated hitter. Everything else pretty much the same. The guys that are sitting today would be Ethan Fry and, of course, Josh Pearson. So that's a look at your lineup. LSU and Omaha at 4 o'clock. If you missed this earlier today, no game on Sunday between LSU and Omaha. They will play 2 games tomorrow. The first game of the doubleheader will be at noon. Second game of the doubleheader will be at 5 o'clock, same time that LSU and Florida tip off from the PMAC tomorrow. LSU against the number 2 Gators. So that'll get you kind of caught up on housekeeping there. We got one thing to do this week, and that's take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right, first one here. ESPN is ending its relationship with Major League Baseball. No more Sunday night baseball. Take it or leave it.
I'm leaving it. That's
Leave it alone.
You know, baseball tonight, such a huge part of my childhood, and they squashed that because apparently nobody wants to watch that anymore, and now they're not going to have Sunday night baseball. And I used to look forward to the few, probably about 4 a year that the Cubs would play on Sunday night baseball, and that was always a real treat.
They were.
Yeah, and look, the players hate Sunday night baseball because it puts you behind the 8 ball as far as travel for the rest of the week. But I always enjoyed it, and so that's a bummer. It's just another indication of how regional baseball has become at the top level, and it just is what it is. And ESPN wants to look elsewhere. So no baseball on Sunday nights, which sucks.
All right, next one here. The third period of the Four Nations Cup final between the U.S. and Canada. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. I watched it. Nobody scored, so that wasn't great. And they went to overtime, and I do think overtime hockey's phenomenal, but I wasn't going to stay up for it. So I turned the TV off, and as I told you off the air, had a text in the group text this morning that said McKay's boy, Connor McDavid, got it done. And when I read that text, I did not know who won. I know who Connor McDavid is. I think he plays for the Oilers.
That is correct.
But I don't know if he's from America or Canada, so I didn't even know if we won or not.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
The Canadians got us.
The Canucks
Darn
got
you,
us.
Canucks.
Yep, they got us.
Unbelievable. Thought we had them. Didn't have them.
No, we didn't. All right, next one. The Yankees will allow well-groomed beards, quote, moving forward from a statement from Hal Steinbrenner. Yankee players with beards. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. You know, I respect dress codes and
of course you're a man of many standards
of consequence for an employer, but their baseball players are playing baseball. A lot of baseball players have beards and mustaches. That's just fine. The Yankees can get on board with that. I don't want them to change their iconic uniforms and kind of the way they do that. I think the aura that is the Yankees is awesome. But I think that they can let guys grow their facial hair. I think that'll be just fine. So that's cool.
All right, next one here. The Cubs, Hunt, they're playing in a spring training game right now. Don't let you know this. They won.
The Dodgers.
They beat the Dodgers yesterday.
They need to beat the Dodgers in Japan.
Let's beat them in Japan. Yeah, that's when it really counts. But had most of the starters in the game today so far. Ian Happ 1 for 1 with a single. Dansby, Suzuki, PCA, Miguel Maya, all 0 for. But Jordan Wicks, 2 innings, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts, no walks, no runs. Jordan Wicks, 20 starts or over and under 20 starts. Take it or leave it.
I'll go under that. I would leave it. I think that they'll have other guys that'll work their way towards that. He'll
started 11 last year.
He did. We'll see.
He's still young, so.
He is. I like him. Kansas State boy, first round pick. But yeah, it's good to see the guys out there in action in spring training. That makes me a happy guy. It means we're progressing towards warmer weather, which we got to get because this is not going to get it done. In the 40s is no good. I can't have it. I was checking out at Rouse's on Tuesday, and somebody said, "Are you enjoying the weather that's coming this week?" And I was like, "No." I'd be happy if it was 75. I don't need it to be 29 when I wake up and try to get out of the house.
I don't think anyone...
I appreciate her being nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
But I wasn't going to lie to her. I don't appreciate this weather at all.
Yeah, I don't even think... I guess I don't know for sure, but I don't even think people that live usually in 29-degree weather probably enjoy it very much.
She told me that she likes to get on the couch with a cup of coffee on a blanket. And I said,
that's
you
fine.
Can do that in July.
Yeah, just turn the AC down.
You don't even have to turn the AC down. It's just live in your 68-degree house.
You could.
71-degree house. Whatever you live in, it's the same. It's the same in July as it is in February. That's the point of the air conditioning. So, I don't like the weather.
It's getting better though. I think we're turning the corner here this weekend.
I'm heading to the box, which I'm excited about, but I'm not going to be able to put the window down in the press box because it's too cold.
Too chilly.
The wind will be blowing. I have a jacket, but I don't need cold hands.
No.
So I'm going to have to feel like I'm cooped up inside.
And no Coke Zeros, most likely. I think
there won't be any Coke Zeros
unless you've gotten on to Mr. Frank has about
No, I haven't. I may sneak around the corner to the broadcast booth and see if Chris and Doug have restocked, but they didn't have any last weekend. So look,
man, this is a hard time for you, Hunter.
I'm a beggar, and look, I'm a chooser, and I choose Coke Zero, and it's not available, so it's very difficult for me. But we're gonna make it through 9 innings, and then I'll write a story about it at LouisianaSports.net, which you can read on LouisianaSports.net. That's it for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. Opened the show today talking about the Saints' new coordinators. Those are in place. Gave my opinions on all that. Preston Guy talking LSU football at 1:15. Previewed LSU in Florida and Hoops. Didn't look great. You can go check that out at Hoops with Hunt, wherever you find your sound. Canceled spring games. Is that going to happen a little bit more? And then some baseball preview and some football as well in the second hour. Find that wherever you find your podcasts on demand. We're done. Matt's going to drive you home. We're back same time, same place on Monday. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.